This is the Resilient Advisor Podcast, the show for high-performing financial advisors. We bring you the best practices of the industry's top performers so that you can build resilience in your business and your personal life. Here is your host, Jay Coulter.
Thanks for downloading this episode of the Resilient Advisor Podcast. This episode is sponsored by my consulting firm, R.C. Whatley. At R.C. Whatley, we help financial advisors grow their business by building and implementing customized systems that create the capacity for growth. For more information, please visit rcwhatley.com. Joining me today is Joel Beck of the Beck Law Firm. This is his second time on the podcast. Joel's practice focuses in the areas of financial markets, insurance regulation, estate planning, and business law. And on this episode, we're going to talk about a topic that most advisors ignore, and that is succession planning. Joel, thanks for coming back on.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me again, Jay. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's get started. What is a succession plan, a good succession plan for an advisor? What does it look like, and what are most advisors missing?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer the tail end of that first. What most advisors are missing, I think, is actually having a succession plan in the first place, and that's a problem. But it's somewhat similar to estate planning, and there was a survey that came out from caring.com in January of 2017 that found that only about 42% of U.S. adults have a will or a trust in place. The majority of adults in America had not completed any meaningful estate planning. Now, I've not seen any meaningful statistics on how financial advisors fare in regards to succession planning for their practice, but I expect that percentage would be less than 42% of advisors who have completed the succession plan. So back to your main question, well, what is it and what does it do? Well, let me lay it out real simply. Essentially, a succession plan is a written document agreed upon by the advisor and generally another advisor or a team and the advisor's firm that provides for how we're going to handle the advisor's business in the event of generally four things. One, that the advisor is temporarily away from their business, maybe on an extended vacation or some type of short-term disability. The second item is if the advisor is away from the business for a long-term disability. Three, if the advisor dies. And then four, the advisor decides to retire. And so when we talk about succession planning for advisors, we're generally talking about a way that another advisor can step in and handle the business, take care of the clients, service the accounts in the business, and then provide for a way for the advisor to monetize their book of business and provide for a smooth transfer to their chosen successor who will buy their business in the event of a long-term disability, retirement, or death.
So anecdotally, in my experience, for the independent clients we work with, none of them had a succession plan in place when we first start an engagement. None. So I would subjectively say it's probably less than 10% of independent advisors. So what kind of risk are they carrying by not having that?
The risk that they're taking, I think, is that they are a heartbeat away from the catastrophic failure of their business. If they are taken out of their role and can't serve as an advisor due to some short or long-term disability, then they have nobody to step in and service these accounts. When the clients can't get hold of the advisor and they don't have any guidance or instruction, they may start shopping around and going to somebody who will be responsive. They then start to lose their book of business through attrition. If the advisor decides to retire or becomes disabled on a long-term basis, again, the clients are left with nobody there to take care of them, and the advisor is left without a willing buyer to step in and to provide the maximum value to the advisor for the purchase of his or her book of business. They may be instead forced to kind of have a fire sale of their book of business to somebody else. And of course, that's going to result in a lower payment and generally a lower retention rate of the client accounts for the purchasing advisor. So you run a lot of risk, I think, if you're an independent advisor with not having a succession plan in place.
So let's get granular. If you're an independent advisor and you need to put something in place, what type of papering needs to happen? What type of documents need to be in place?
Well, generally, Jay, what we do is we put together a succession plan where the advisor has, and let's call the main advisor the owner, okay? The owner finds another advisor. Hopefully it's somebody in his or her broker-dealer already, because that just makes this process a lot more smoothly, or go a lot more smoothly. And so we have this other advisor we're going to call the protector, okay? And so the protector is going to agree to step in and cover the owner's business on a short-term basis. And that's often done for no charge, for no compensation to the protector. All of the fees and commissions on this very short-term basis would continue to just flow to the owner. But then the succession plan document's going to provide that for a longer-term absence or longer-term disability, the protector will cover the book of business for the owner and will be compensated for doing so. Now, there may be a fee split arrangement, but in this case, the protector is doing the bulk of the work and would normally be entitled then to the yeoman's share of the fees for that. But if the owner is able to come back to work, he or she can then resume coverage on these accounts and pick back up. Or if he's going to have to retire or sell the business, the protector then has the right of first refusal and can buy that book of business, buy the practice on some general rough terms that they've already fleshed out in the succession plan. And then that also is how we deal with the death of the owner. If the owner FA dies while working and before retiring, the protector will step in, cover those accounts, and has the right of first refusal to buy the book of business, again, in accordance with a evaluation system or purchase plan that they've already worked out. So that's the basics that a good succession plan is going to cover, and it's also going to need to be approved by the firm, by the owner FA's broker-dealer firm. And so, they have to be involved in this because they're going to be a major player in facilitating letting the protector come in, handle the accounts, pay the protector the compensation, and then upon the purchase of the book of business, transferring those accounts over to his or her, rep number as appropriate.
In your professional experience, how far along are the broker-dealers in setting up these protector arrangements for their advisors?
I think it varies. Different firms handle these things differently. Some of them raise this whole concept of succession planning to their advisors, noting that, hey, this is important and this is what you need to get done. Some of them will have sample succession planning documents for their advisors to work with their own attorneys to help put in place. And those sample documents may give you a good idea of how they would like to see these structured and what they're comfortable with approving. Other firms have nothing on the books about this and don't even bring it up as an issue. So it really varies across the board from firm to firm.
Would you say that the advisors need to take ownership of this if their firms aren't providing or being aggressive with providing these solutions?
Well, I would say that the advisors have to take ownership of it regardless. It's their business. It's their livelihood. And the firm, it's not on them for the advisor to make the advisor get this planning done. So absolutely, the advisor has to drive this process. And if his or her firm doesn't have in place some procedures and some draft documents, then he or she is going to really have to talk with the firm, make sure they understand the importance of proper succession planning, and get them on board to help.
That makes perfect sense. So how can an advisor, once they make the decision to do this, put some processes and systems in place to make it go smoothly?
Yeah, well, I think that what they've got to do, they've got to find a system or a process that's going to work for them and be a good fit. And so when you look at, hey, who can I have as my protector, right? Who is going to be, kind of the successor for my business? You've got to think about a few things. One, is this person a good person, Is it somebody that my clients are going to be able to communicate well with and work well? Do they have a similar investment philosophy? Do they have similar practice management and communication skills? Think about that. Second, these processes are always easier if both the owner and the protector are at the same broker-dealer. It makes things far easier and practical for handling the short-term or long-term absences or disabilities when you're not necessarily just selling the book of business right out. Of course, as we talked about, you've got to have the firm approve the plan and be willing to direct compensation as appropriate and called for in the plan. And when the need arises, clients need to know that the protecting FA, or need to know who the protecting FA is, and have confidence in him or her to be able to retain that business. And so a transition period or a team approach can be very valuable, and it can provide for more business being moved to the protector once he or she acquires the business. Of course, the key here, Jay, is you've got to plan ahead. The time to do succession planning is when you don't have an immediate need for it. That's going to make this process a lot easier and smoother. If you wait until the crisis sets in, it may be too late. And your options may be far more limited at that point. So planning ahead is really a big key to this whole process.
Joel, that's why I was excited to produce this podcast on this topic. We run across this in our consulting business where somebody enters a crisis situation with regards to succession planning needs, and then they make the call, and then they want to make the plan. And it's not that it's too late, right, Joel, but it should have been handled beforehand.
In some cases, it may be too late, Jay. If the advisor, the owner advisor is at a point where they don't have legal capacity to enter contracts, it's too late. Just think of how things happen when somebody doesn't do their own estate planning and have a will or a trust and a power of attorney and advanced directive for health care in place. Same thing. We've got to deal with those capacity issues. Sometimes you'll still have the capacity and it won't be too late, but you lose some leverage and you lose some ability to control the outcomes, and instead may have certain things dictated to you that may not be your primary or secondary choice. So planning ahead, really critical in making the most of your succession planning.
Joel, once again, you've come onto the podcast and added a lot of incredibly valuable content. Please tell our listeners how they can find you.
Sure, and I'm glad to be here and talk to you. Thanks. I think this is a really important topic for all advisors to wrestle with and make sure they've done some planning. If you need to get hold of me, I'm at the Beck Law Firm, LLC. We're in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and you can find us online at thebeckfirm.com or give us a call at 678-344-5342.
Joel, thanks again.